Chile here is Jupiter day, Jupiter hour, and we're doing a Jupiter talisman. Because I noticed something about these Jupiter talismans, and this is that it's a calling to show up. My gnosis with Jupiter is that it's a big calling to show up. And I noticed that they're quite immediate, particularly with this Venus Uranus. I'm gonna have to take some candles. There are very immediate. The Uranus, everything Uranus is very immediate, and it affected my Venus talismans. And I'm just gonna pick up some candles. Calling on the courage of Selene, because we also have a moon in Cancer talisman here, so it's very crowded. So calling on the courage of Selene. The first immediate thing is, let's take a look at how much time do I have to do this. Ascendant ruled by Venus, Venus with Uranus. I definitely want to capture Venus in Taurus. It's Jupiter hour, so it's Jupiter really accentuated. And I think it's time to paint. Well, I only have 23 minutes, so I'm going to take my painting of Venus and add a Venus to it. But first, let me open these candles. I'm going to have Moon in Cancer. Then I'm going to accentuate on this Jupiter, Moon Jupiter in Cancer. We're going to have a fuga of candles. Moon in Cancer, Moon Jupiter. We're going to have Moon in Cancer, Venus in Taurus. And then we're going to have Jupiter in Cancer, Venus in Taurus. And this is actually our last Venus. And then, of course, I'm going to begin with Moon in Cancer. We're going to do Jupiter, Venus in Taurus, and Uranus in Taurus. Now to the final mathematical expression, but first of all, we're going to have to ground it with Jupiter in Cancer, and then Venus in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus. Very immediate, very spontaneous. And the final mathematical expression that we have here, Mars is just leaving Saturn. But I wonder if I want to incorporate Mars into the mix. Mars is in the 12th house, so I'm not going to do it now. Moon in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, Venus in Taurus, and Uranus in Taurus. So for the fuga, I took simple candles, and I'm going to do also Jupiter, Venus, Jupiter in Cancer, Venus in Taurus, and Uranus in Taurus. And it is Jupiter hour, so I bring something with Jupiter always. and Venus, and so on. Simple candles, simple work, but definitely capturing on the Fuga principle of structure. Jupiter, Venus, and Uranus. Taurus and Cancer. And the last candle, gonna have Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, lovely little fuga there. Now, for the Venus, this thing accentuates Jupiter. So, I'm going to begin with a painting. We'll try to begin with a painting that accentuates on Moon Jupiter. And that painting will be becoming the combination of many talismans. Now, here is the drama with these things. Honing on the warning of the Kapaks regarding talismans is that those talismans captivate certain skies. And those skies, for example, if the moon is now hopefully in good orb not to square Mars, those things bring those energies. So before anybody does painting or talismanic painting, I want them to take into account that this is an engineering experiment. I want you to think about yourselves as building a bridge or building a city. Even though you're just painting a painting. Now, I also want you to not be too scared, because even the way we order the things in our house has a feng shui, as an energy meaning. So at any case, we are participating in the engineering of the world. Which means that I don't want you to be too scared to create, but I also want you to understand that those things have various effects. For example, yesterday the moon was at a T-square, and that was an enormous argument just when the skies were so profoundly exalted because of the aspect between the moon and Mars. And so the question is, should we wait out the T-squares? Should we, in a talisman we usually prefer the good aspects, though I do see hard aspects between the moon and the planets, as they are more manifesting of the energy of the planet, but they can also create a friction with the moon. So there are many approaches to that, and this is where I'm using white and silver paint for the moon in Cancer. I'm gonna have to cover myself up with paper before everything gets colored. Now, definitely, I'm going to do for the moon and Jupiter here in Cancer. Now, the lovely thing about painting is that there's a limited time, and that limited time can do a lot. Now, for Jupiter, I wonder where my oranges are. And there's something lovely about creation where it awakens, even if people were arguing, even if anything, there's something that comes up with this Jupiter hour, and Jupiter exalted in Cancer that reminds us to create. Even if the room is messy, even if we haven't prepared. Now, there's something that's very compatible with the spirit of the times as well. Because there is war all over. People are losing their homes. And yet, wherever we are, we show up for this Jupiter hour and have this point of optimism and creation even within this mess. And now I'm combining the silver and the white with the orange. And I love that it's abstract. It reminds us that sometimes just playing with color is good enough. And this is a cornerstone. The fact that we are aware of time brings an unpredictable value to this painting. Now, even though it's Jupiter hour, let's say, what if I take this Jupiter color and I do Jupiter in Cancer, engraving, this exaltation. And into that, now, I really love the combination of the two. The white and the silver. I'm really happy about the silver. Those are really profoundly light. Now the yellows and whites, of course, they are also light. And Moon Jupiter is the clearing of the water. And this is where care is benevolent. And the benevolent care must never be hijacked if we want to build a legacy. And this is where I'm going to add some Venus colors. Now, Venus Uranus is definitely, a lot of people associate Uranus with silver. I think this is for a good reason. Uranus associates to us with space. And this is where it's time to go and bring in the green. For the Venus, and I do join the white for the moon. So I already made a Venus painting, and now this Venus is trining Pluto. So the reason I don't outright add to the Venus painting is because it's Jupiter hour. And so I do bring Venus to the Jupiter painting. And with Venus, Uranus, and Jupiter exalted, we are reminded that the Venus also needs to exalt. What does it mean? That we can't pollute the water. We can't have our care and benevolence um, violating Venus. And this is the lovely thing about Venuranus, is the liberation from any violating patterns. And the notion that people are invited, people are not unwanted, but they can't use their care to violate. Even if they are parents, even if they are a nation, even if they are people. And the basis of that is with Venus, the union, the sensual union is only when is both willing. And this is where is the foundation, because the moon is foundation. And Taurus comes before Cancer. Because before we can even create foundation, we have to have the sensuality. Before a child is even born, the conception needs to be from willing consent. And for many of us, one way or another, even if people really wanted a child, but they forgot the sensual, or they did not even know about the sensual. Many people didn't. This is where Venus is this woman that is holding an apple. And Venus, yes, she's associated with the pleasure. But the pleasure, and this is where Taurus sextiles Cancer, the pleasure is with love. And what's not loving, essentially, is also not pleasurable. Venus knows that pleasure is pleasure. She does not idealize pain. The moon and Jupiter can look at pain as growth, but Venus also reminds us that pleasure is pleasure. And there's a reason why the pleasure is brought to the experiences of birthing, and there's also a reason why the more people are embodying this knowledge, the more friction it creates with anything trafficky. And those frictions are a part of this growth cycle. Because this is where people take away the residues of what was not growing with love. And I added the yellow to the hair of Venus, which is this Jupiter in Cancer. Though I myself don't have yellow hair. But I would add silver as well. Yes, silver to the hair. For this is the moon. By the way, when we get older and our hair turns silvery, is also associated with the moon. If the hair is also Saturn, and the moon is nourishment. So We think about the nourishment of our roots. And how embracing that silver is actually a part of that nourishment. In societies where it's not a joyous, pleasurable experience to age, we see a lot of child trade. So into that, I'm going to throw in the silver again to bring in Uranus. But it came out white because it's Uranus. I do add brown to the hair of the woman because, for fuck's sakes, I'm supposed to be that woman who is enjoying the pleasures of life, and I have brown hair, so this has nothing to do with astrology, but everything to do with me. And that's okay, it's me as the creator of this talisman painting. Which also reminds us where the value of art comes into the value of talismans. If we paint the image of joy and pleasure in our own image, and I left the blonde here because it's a part of my lineage. My mother has blonde hair. Some of my siblings probably have. But the value of the art is also our own identity. My mother had an art teacher, and this art teacher, she said, at her time, yellow and green, not yellow green, blue and green were colors that were not to be painted together. And that art teacher was very smart. She said, how come people think that the green of the land, of the fertile land where something actually grows on, and the blue of the sky don't blend well together? So I did not know this art teacher. I don't know her name. One of you is silver. I need more silver for the Uranus. And this reminds us that when we come to create art, of course, because the art was associated with the sensual and the profane within the Templars that built a lot of things, but there's something about their legacy that need to be refined, and that is to take the rape away from the lineages, to abolish rape, but actually refine and sustain everything that was built. Because everything that was built can fall apart for the foundation that is not rapey. And now we have this Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, with Venus in Taurus, conjoining this Uranus. And it's also a reminder that the people that came from these lineages, whether it's the banking lineages, the financiers, and so on and so forth, that they too can create, and it doesn't have to be, it can be good enough, and also that the foundation of something that is not rapey is the foundation for everything, because a lot of these people they did not come from a place of having. They had money, but that money was all they had, and they were trying to get everything with what they tried to get what they don't have with what they have. So they were trying to bargain for care, or trying to bargain for sex. And while they definitely built a lot of things, we're also reminded that the foundation of a non-rapey currency is essential. Uranus is leaving Taurus with this unfinished picture. And now we got Mars now. Mars is in the 12th house. I'm just going to leave it as it is with this unfinished raw painting of the beauty of this and the beauty of this and the eclectic collection of the colors and the blending that is not really profoundly blending, because it is the foundation. And for many people that built foundation, it was built not without arguments, even foundational arguments. And I was answering to Light Asefa today that the foundation of something being not rapey was not accessible for literally all of us. And even the way to reach the foundation that is not rapey is different for different people, and that's okay. A person that, let's say, was trafficked and learned how to set boundaries by charging more for what sexual things they do at first is a different story than a person that, to begin with, could not even be sexual with people. Even though the origin wound was along the line of the origin wound. And I'll end this with a story about the company Rolls-Royce. So the astrological chart of the two founders of Rolls-Royce has Rahu and Ketu squaring one another. Just like we have right now with 2030. And these two that have Rahu and Ketu squaring one another created the company Rolls-Royce. The square of Rahu and Ketu simply means that their growth, where they were growing, had friction, and where they came from had friction. And yet they created a car that lasts a century. And so this is something that reminds us that even when we're growing in different directions, what we create can sustain. If we find a foundation that can accommodate for this friction. And that foundation in itself is not without a friction. Because the essence of anything that stands the test of time is to be able to argue without unaliving ourselves or one another. And without, how should I say that? Without having any of what we built not stand the test of time. So this also, and here is the value of Venus Uranus here, is that when something is not rapey, then the space Uranus is made so the disgust that comes with the rapey things is alleviated through that space. If, let's say, if I'm not raped by someone, and someone does not try to approach me when they don't honor me, then there is distance. And in that instance, I may have even amiable feeling towards them. It is only when something comes to rape and to violate and blame the raped that disgust begins to be born. Uranus here liberates us from the disgust by liberating us from these rapey and violating cycles.